only found in, I believe, in Italy, even during the Roman period, then is Latin.
So this reflects also on the culture, because essentially the culture of the time was more Greek. It never really became what we would call Roman, whatever that is. That it was a Greek culture that was maintained right until, the Arab conquest.
Yes. So I think the Hellenism, which started with the conquest of Alexander the Great in 333 BC, lasted for, well, the best part of a millennium, rather than just the 300 years until the Romans came and took over. 1,000 years is a very long time for a language to exist in isolation from its, shall we say, its mother country.
He advanced to the ends of the earth. The earth became quite before him, and ruled over countries, nations, and princes. After this he fell sick, and perceived that he was dying. So he summoned his most honored officers, who had been brought up with him from youth, and divided his kingdom among them while he was still alive.
Alexander fell ill in Babylon and died there. About his body, we don't know what happened. Every one of his generals wanted to have the body to be the successor. Alexander was the first king who was not buried in the holy capital, Aegean. His general, Ptolemy, tried to transfer his body in Egypt. We don't know what happens to his body, and nobody knows. Maybe it's in Egypt, maybe elsewhere. Nobody knows.
Upon the death of Alexander, his vast empire was basically divided up among 4 of his generals. The remnants of the empire were to survive for little more than 150 years, until the Romans conquered in 168 BC.
The greatest looting in history was made here in Pella, when the last king, Perseus, was defeated by the Romans. When the Romans came here, they took everything they found. For days and days, they put them on the cargoes to transfer them to Rome. And then, in Rome, the conqueror, General Aemilius Paulus, made his triumph, and for 3 days passed through the treasures he captured from Pella.
What the Romans did not take when they invaded Macedonia was subsequently plundered by grave robbers, even though some tombs were under 12 meters of earth. The only items left behind to be rediscovered in the 20th century were those which could not be carried. It is artifacts, not words, which tell the history of ancient Macedonia. Philip's tomb is the first of any great historical figure to be found intact in Greece. Professor Andronicus was naturally excited at the king's treasure, but even more so by what was found outside the tomb.
We found hundreds or thousands even of broken pieces of marble. These pieces belong to 2 stones of a cemetery which has been destroyed by somebody. All these are dated in the 4th century. And on these tombstones we have the names of the dead, which are the names of common people, not of generals or high nobles, etc. So we have about 75 names. All of them are Greek names, not only written in Greek letters, but the names are of Greek root and have a meaning in Greek language. So there is a proof now that all these people were of the same race or tribe or nationalities as Greeks of the southern Greece. I wrote a paper about this under the title Vergina Without Gold, saying that even only these tombstones are so important as all the other finds together from the historical point of view. In June of 88, we found a burial of the 6th century BC, 500 BC, plenty of gold and of jewelry, absolutely unique. And I'm sure that around this tomb I found this, I mean 88, there are other the same period, about 500 BC, so early, with the same object. So for me, Virginia has for another 1 or 2 generations of archaeologists' work.
Display magnificence, not in extravagant outlays which straightway vanish, but in the beauty of the objects which you possess. For such expenditures will not be lost to you while you live, and you will leave to those who follow you a heritage worth more than what you have spent.
In a cultural sense, the spread of Hellenism continues around the world even today. Priceless historical exhibits have been allowed under government treaty to travel abroad for display. Impressive exhibitions have been seen in Italy and the US, but the largest and richest collection of all had the greatest distance to travel. Almost 2,500 years after his far-roaming conquests, the spirit of Alexander had reached Australia.
Your heart is beating all the time when something so enormous is going somewhere so far. For me, it's my country, it's my history, my identity, and I am proud, not only as a Minister of Culture, but as a human being. I believe that the knowledge of another culture, it's marvelous for the Australian, or for the Americans, or for the French. I believe in that. It's my goal, is my dream to make the connection through the cultural life.